Most people think the worst thing a family can do is say no. They're wrong. The worst thing is when they quietly decide your future for you, and expect you to thank them for it. My education wasn't taken in a moment. It was taken in pieces. Signed away in conversations I wasn't invited to. Explained to me like it was for my own good. And by the time I understood what they'd done, it was already too late. Or at least, that's what they thought. Welcome back. Get comfortable. Maybe grab something warm. Tea, coffee, whatever you need. Because this one takes a minute. The people in this story had every opportunity to choose differently. They just didn't. If you've ever felt like the extra child in your own family, you're going to understand this one in a way that's almost uncomfortable. And if you're still here by the end, you'll understand why I left before sunrise. We were a family of 4. At least, technically. But if you walked into our living room, you'd think there were only 3 people that mattered. My father, Cameron Sheik, believed in structure. Schedules. Discipline. Order. My mother, Farah, believed in peace. The kind that avoids conflict, even when conflict is necessary. And then there was my sister. Hira. 2 years older than me. Effortless. Charming. Loud in all the ways people like. The kind of person teachers remembered. Neighbors praised. Relatives compared you to. And then there was me. Aman Sheik. Quiet. Predictable. Low maintenance. That was my mother's favorite phrase for me. He doesn't need much. What she meant was, he doesn't complain. There's a difference. Let me tell you something about quiet kids. We're not quiet because we don't notice things. We're quiet because we notice everything. And I noticed early that love in our house wasn't equal. It was allocated. Hira got celebrations. I got acknowledgements. Hira's report cards went on the fridge. Mine went into a drawer. Hira's mistakes were stress. Mine were disappointments. It wasn't dramatic. That's the part people don't understand. There were no screaming matches. No obvious cruelty. Just patterns. Subtle ones. The kind that build over years until they become the air you breathe. I didn't mind it at first. Not really. Because I had something else. School. More specifically, learning. Numbers made sense. Logic made sense. If you put in the work, you got results. No favoritism. No bias. Just cause and effect. By the time I was 16, I was already ahead of my class in mathematics. By 18, I had a scholarship lined up for a private university in Lahore. Not just any scholarship. A full one. Tuition. Housing. Books. Everything. I still remember the email. Subject line, congratulations. Simple. Clean. Life-changing. I read it 5 times. Then I printed it. Then I sat there, staring at my name like it belonged to someone else. For the first time in my life, something was entirely mine. I told my mother first. She smiled. That same soft, distracted smile she always had when she didn't quite know how to react to me. That's very good, Beta. Very good. Not amazing. Not life-changing. Just, very good. Then she said, we'll talk to your father. We'll talk. That phrase should have warned me. Dinner that night felt normal. Too normal. Hira was talking about a fashion course she wanted to take. Expensive. Private. Not particularly necessary. My father nodded along. Of course. If it's what you want. Of course. I waited. Then, carefully, I said, I got the scholarship. Silence. Not shocked silence. Measured silence. My father looked at the printed email. Read it once. Then set it down. This is in Lahore. Yes. You'll have to live there. Yes. Another pause. Then he leaned back. We'll think about it. If you've ever heard that sentence in a family like mine, you already know what it means. It doesn't mean we'll think about it. It means, we've already decided. The first sign came a week later. I asked about documents. Enrollment deadlines were approaching. My father waved it off. Still time. There wasn't. But I didn't argue. Not yet. Then Hira's course got approved. Fees paid within 2 days. No delays. No discussions. Just, done. I told myself it wasn't the same. It wasn't comparable. I told myself a lot of things. That's the thing about hope. It fills in gaps where logic should be. The second sign came when I overheard them. Not intentionally. I was passing by their room. The door was slightly open. My mother's voice was low. He'll manage here too. My father replied, Lahore will change him. And Hira, she asked. Silence. Then, she needs stability right now. Needs. That word again. I stood there, not moving. Listening to my future being discussed like a budget item. Then my father said something I didn't fully understand at the time. If we let him go, who will stay? That was the moment something shifted. Not loudly. Just, slightly off-center. Like a frame on a wall that's no longer straight. I didn't confront them. Not then. Instead, I started watching more carefully. Patterns became clearer. My documents, delayed. My questions, redirected. Deadlines, ignored. Until one evening, I checked the university portal. My application status had changed. Not to confirmed. Not to pending. Withdrawn. I didn't breathe for a few seconds. Just stared at the screen. Refreshed it. Logged out. Logged back in. Same word. Withdrawn. I hadn't done that. Which meant, someone else had. I walked into the living room. My father was watching the news. Hira was scrolling on her phone. My mother was in the kitchen. Normal. Everything looked normal. I stood there for a moment. Then I said, why was my application withdrawn? The room didn't explode. No one panicked. My father muted the TV. We decided it's not the right time. We decided. I nodded slowly. And my scholarship? It's just a scholarship, he said. Opportunities come again. That's when I understood. Not just what they did. But how little it meant to them. If you've made it this far, you probably feel what I felt. Not anger. Not yet. Something quieter. Heavier. Like something inside you just drops. And doesn't come back up. I didn't argue. That surprised them. I could see it in my mother's eyes. She was ready for resistance. Emotion. Maybe even tears. I gave them none. Okay, I said. Just one word. Okay. That night, I didn't sleep. Not because I was upset. Because I was thinking. Carefully. Systematically. For the first time, not like a son. Like someone planning an exit. Here's the thing. When people underestimate you, they also stop watching you. And that's when you're most dangerous. I checked everything. Emails. Saved documents. Backup copies. The original acceptance letter was still there. So were the contacts. So were alternative intake options. Late admission. Conditional enrollment. Not ideal. But possible. Very possible. I didn't confront them again. Not about that. Instead. I became exactly what they expected. Quiet. Compliant. Low maintenance. I ate dinner with them. Listened to Hira talk about her course. Helped my mother with small things around the house. I even thanked my father once for thinking about my future. He nodded, satisfied. But every night, after everyone slept, I was rebuilding mine. Applications. Emails. Calls made from outside. Documents resubmitted. Deadlines negotiated. I learned more in those 2 weeks than I had in years. Not about education. About independence. And then, I got it. A late acceptance. Not the same program. Not the same campus. But still in Lahore. Still funded. Still mine. I didn't celebrate. Didn't tell anyone. Just printed the letter. Folded it carefully. And placed it in my bag. The decision wasn't dramatic. No big speech. No emotional breakdown. Just clarity. If they could decide my future without me, I could leave without telling them. I packed slowly. Over 3 days. Not everything. Just what mattered. Clothes. Books. Documents. A small photo of my younger self, before I understood any of this. The night before I left, we had dinner together. Like always. My father talked about finances. My mother asked if I needed anything. Hira complained about her course workload. Normal. Perfectly normal. At one point, my mother said, "You should think about applying again next year." I looked at her. Really looked. And for a second, I almost said everything. But then I realized something. They weren't ready to hear it. And I was no longer willing to wait. So I smiled. Maybe, I said. That was the last lie I told in that house. I woke up before sunrise. The house was silent. Still. The kind of quiet that feels final. I stood in my room for a moment. Looked around. Nothing dramatic. Just walls. A bed. A life I was about to leave behind. Then I picked up my bag and walked out. No note. No message. No goodbye. Because here's the truth. Goodbyes are for people who see you. By morning, I was gone. And that's when everything changed.